what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below the video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. And we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing?
All is good. All is good.
Excellent.
How are you?
I'm very well. No complaints from me.
Haha. So there's quite a few people that haven't been on recently. Have you noticed? No sign of Paul Voigt because he's missing some evidence that we're going to be asking him for. Rumpus hasn't produced his explanation on the bendy light thing, so he's not been on for a while. M. Scott Veach, son of the astronaut, he's not been on for a while. Where are all these ballers going? These protagonists? Is it because they're getting their asses kicked, or is it because they're on protest, Nath?
Well, if Paul Voigt joined, you'd just immediately ask him for his evidence of the self-perpetuating molten iron core, and presumably he'd have nothing to give you, as always.
Yeah, the physicist he is. How many physicists do you know with no evidence to support their assertions? One, Paul Voigt.
Yep. I mean, there's a whole list of them, though, isn't there? There's all sorts of people that have been challenged for various different things. May or may not come back in.
How many of them do you actually know?
How many of them do I what?
How many do you actually know? Like, I mean, we can't really say Neil deGrasse Tyson is one because we don't actually know him.
Oh, I see what you mean. No, I mean actual people that have been on the panel that have been challenged for stuff by you or I or whoever.
So no Ranty today. He's off and out and about somewhere. Arwen's probably still in bed, the lazy little sod. So I guess it's going to be a quiet one. However, we do have some content that's going to be quite interesting. Because Ranty went on with Mr. Osman last night. Did you see that?
I did. I tuned in live.
I didn't pay any attention to chat, but I turned in the last 5 minutes or so. Didn't know he was on. Turned on the last 5 minutes or so and saw Ranty rounding out. And Tim just made some really fantastic closing speeches, which we need to go through in a bit because it's it's glorious content. There's only 85 people watching at the moment, so what I'll do is I'll wait until we crest 100 just to make sure that everybody gets to hear it that's regular, because it's too good to miss. He's got to get a good shout out for it because it's glorious.
Fair enough. I'm up for that.
How am I going to physically pass the sound through? I might have to drop and rejoin with a Skype call. Is that okay?
Yeah, or I can scan through it for you. I don't mind either way.
Here I am.
Hello.
Here he is.
Hello, Plain Truth.
Oh, I could tell you, yesterday, Hangouts kicked me every single time I signed in. And Nathan, you were always like, hey, Plain Truth. And I'm like, I'm here. Can anybody hear me?
It might not be Hangouts kicking you. It might have been Ranty being a little bit keen.
No, because he was in for some of it.
Every single time I was gone. But anyway.
Well, good to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
So you'll have to remind me, are you on the flat side or on the ball side?
I am on the flat side. The Plain Truth is my meager channel that I've got a few things up that I've thought about and whatnot. So
you sound like you're out on the road.
I am. I'm a truck driver. I'm driving around Washington, D.C. right now on the Beltway in traffic.
So you're in rush hour traffic, is it? 9 o'clock in the morning?
That's right. Yep.
That sounds like you'll not be getting anywhere quick.
It was horrible even coming down from Massachusetts last night, like 2+ hours. It was just...
Oh, is that... Hey, Pete. Got troll attacks already. Fun. Let's just kick this troll out. Can you hear us,
Oh,
Wiggles?
that was Miyagi-Do.
He's dead, isn't he now, Mr. Miyagi?
Wiggles is here too.
Hey, Wiggles. Lots of the distorted echo effect, but yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I hooked my microphone up to effects.
Sounds like we're listening to God.
It's very subtle.
Yeah.
I'm the voice of reason, listen to me.
Samuel Jackson playing the role of God.
I can do
Well,
some other cool stuff too.
I was trying
not
to get in
sure.
yesterday.
Okay.
I was trying to get in yesterday because when I was up in Massachusetts, it was early in the morning, and so I tried to observe as much as I can. I called in last week and talked about the moon changing its location, and so when I was looking for the moon in the morning yesterday, my app showed that the moon was directly below the sun. So if on the app, if you're looking up at it, it has the image of the sun, and then it also has a blacked out image of the moon, which was directly below, so that it was like a figure 8 right on top of each other.
It's new moon at the moment, isn't it?
Well, right, but see, I guess my point is that even though it's not a direct eclipse, wouldn't we still have a shadowed orb? Because the brightness of the sun is shining on the side that we can't see, which is usually the dark side of the moon, but that would have been the entire bright side of the moon, and then the normal side of the moon that we normally see would be the dark side.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say that we should see some element of a cast shadow because of how close the moon was.
Right. Yeah. So it's just anomalies like that, things that just don't jive. It's like the glitch in the Matrix. I mean, I never thought about this stuff until Flat Earth, and now it's just like every time it happens, you're thinking, okay, what's going on?
Hey, listen, you're from Massachusetts, is that right?
No. I'm from the Baltimore area. I just drive up and down Massachusetts, and
you know Massachusetts. What has it got a claim to fame?
does Massachusetts have a claim to fame besides Boston and the Red Sox?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know something that you probably already know, but for me, it's a claim to fame. But what's it famous for? Has it got any claims to fame?
Plymouth Rock.
Pardon?
I don't know. Plymouth Rock. I'm not sure. What are you looking for?
It was the recording scene for Jaws, wasn't it? On the beach.
Oh yeah, Amityville, all that. Yeah, that stuff's up here. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to remember that. That's the biggest claim to fame.
Yeah. Yep.
Shout out to Amityville.
That's right.
I've always wanted to find somebody that was in that area because it would be interesting to know. Have you ever actually swam in the beach? Well, not in the beach, but in the sea at the beach.
Right. Yeah. There's always that niggling,
that lurking feeling that might be.
Yeah.
I'd love to go just to say I'd done it.
Sure. That's right. Just dip my toe in.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Nathan? It was recorded there, Jaws.
I didn't.
You did or you didn't?
I didn't.
No. Bit of useless information for the day.
Yep.
Wonderful. Yeah,
and then there was another part I was driving through, and there was a sign for Sandy Hook, and I thought, because I think that's in Connecticut. So I was going down I-90, I think, and there was a sign for Sandy Hook. I thought, well, maybe I'll take a little detour.
Cool. Well, we're on 110 at the minute, or 19. I think if I mute this input here, but don't leave, it'll allow me to join on Skype, but then keep my line open.
Is it just you? Is it just you and me right now?
Me, you, and Nathan, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you're gonna have to go on mute in this set though, because we can hear your background noise quite a lot.
Okay, that's fine.
Just I want to play some clips from Timothy Osman.
I can't stand that guy.
No, me neither.
I seriously, I almost crashed my truck a couple times yesterday just because I just was like, this guy cannot listen. It just drives me nuts. All right, I'm gonna mute.
Yeah, let me just work out how to stop this sound feeding back. Oh, is that working?
Well, it's working for us. I don't know how well it's working for you.
It seems to be working.
Yeah, it's fine.
You know what it is.
Hello, Alan.
Good afternoon. How's it going, boys?
Very well.
Let me just work out.
No, that's no good. Yeah, just drop from the hangout temporarily, I would.
Is that working?
No, just drop from the hangout temporarily.
Okay.
Right, try it now.
Yeah, that'll work. Right, so if I minimize that, move that over to there. I just need to share screens now.
Don't need
Share
screen,
screens and
just need
sounds.
audio. Just need audio.
I can't do audio, can I?
Of course you can. That's the whole point of being on Skype.
Yeah, but I can't do just audio. It has to be screen and audio.
Oh, yeah. But the audience will just get audio.
Okay. Right, so if I make this a little bit bigger, so I can keep an eye on the back door as well, because I'm multi-talented like this. Right, so Ranty was on with Mr. Osman last night, and I only caught the last 10 minutes of it. Well, Ranty's last 2 or 3 minutes, and then Tim rounding out the show. And he made some really good roundup statements that I thought were really worth considering for the show for today. And I thought, right, let's pick these off, and we'll go through these, Nath. So basically, imagine that we're having a conversation back with Tim, and we're going to pick him up on the things he says here. So we'll go through. I'll play them as a clip at a time, and I've got like a segment where it just splits off. So I think there's about 8 little segments, but we'll go through them and let's just respond because these are glorious.
All he says is that, you know, these people are lying.
He's talking about Jaren going on the Hangouts and stuff and criticizing hosts. So the context is with regard to Jaren.
Just so you're the same level as him, just before you play the next clip, just while you're talking, I'm going to turn up the Skype line just so we can actually hear it a bit clearer, but just stand about 2 foot, 3 foot away from your mic when you talk so you don't blast the audience out. Let me know when you're ready, and then I'll turn up the Skype. Ready?
Oh, not yet. Just give me a sec.
Okay, off you go.
Can you hear me, Nate?
Yeah, I can hear you, but just now when you play, he'll be a bit louder, that's all.
Bear with me a sec. I'm just doing something. There's the car park there. The entrance there.
Maybe not quite that far away.
Yes. Right, I'm back. I'm ready.
Cool.
Okay, so
No, don't get too close to the mic. You're going to blast the audience out. I've just said that exact thing. Try not to get too close. I can't control both you and your level of what you're playing, so just try and keep a little bit further away from the mic so that I can turn it up. Anyway.
We'll try that. Is that better?
Yeah, that's all good. Just hit play, because we've had enough procrastination now.
All he says is that, you know, these people are lying. Well, hey, dude, look at these observations that I've done. Look at some of the things that, you know, what do you think about the celestial sphere? What is wrong with the celestial sphere? How does it work on the flat Earth? How does the equinox, how does all this stuff work? Because it seems to, and how does it not work? More importantly, what is actually wrong with the Earth being a sphere as far as observationally?
So what's wrong with the Earth being a sphere? What's wrong with the equinox? Why do things work and not work? What's wrong with this? For me, the celestial sphere only exists if you can prove that it exists. And to do that, you've got to have 2 observers looking south at the same time, seeing the same set of stars, and then say that the observation of the celestial sphere exists. But until that happens, you're making an assertion without any evidence whatsoever, Tim. What do you think, Nate?
I think try not to get too close to your mic, because you're blasting the audience out. I can't split the level.
Have you, Nathan, have you ever heard of compressors?
Say again?
Have you ever heard of compressors?
Compression, of course.
Yeah, because, like, for example, I got my compressor set to minus 55 dB here, and I'm coming through pretty good, right? But then if I turn the threshold up to, like, 0 now, I lost a lot of myself, didn't I?
Yeah, I know what compression is, but he's playing something, and I can't split up what he's playing on him. So, anyway.
Oh, I don't know. That's all I know.
Anyway, let's just crack on.
Right, is that any better?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yay. Right, so what's wrong with the sphere? What's wrong with the celestial sphere? Unless you can prove it exists, it can be a dome or it can be a sphere, but we don't know what it is. we need to see that two observers looking south at the same time see the same set of stars. That evidence doesn't exist. So until that evidence exists, there's no real conversation about a celestial sphere, right?
Right.
Forget the spin of the Earth. Forget it being heliocentric. Just a geocentric stance. Well, what is wrong with the Earth being a sphere?
So forget the spin? What do you think of that?
Can't concentrate because every time you talk you're really loud, and every time he talks he's really quiet, so I'm having to slide the slider up and slide the slider down.
I've turned my microphone right down though.
Anyway.
Great show, boys. Great show.
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Yeah, Nathan is the sound
work.
master here. You have to listen to what Nathan does. Whatever Nathan tells you to do, do it. That's the only way you're going to get the sound to work.
Oh. Yeah, looks like he's dropped.
I could play some interlude music. All things set up. I could play the Jeopardy theme if we want. I got it all set up.
Oh, this is a great bit of dead air.
Well, in the meantime, what's going on, guys?
Hey, let's turn you up a bit, Chocolate.
I'm gonna play some elevator music.
Yo.
Hello.
It wasn't working.
What's up,
I don't
Larry?
know why it wasn't working.
Yeah, it's just Tim really quiet and you really loud.
Damn. Because he made some really good comments, and I thought they're well worth giving some kudos. He was saying stuff like how the show's dying and how we shouldn't.
Oh man.
Well, at least it wasn't like some big phallus on screen.
You sure it wasn't?
Difficult to tell. Needs a bit of a trim.
It looked like a big fella jumping around and dancing.
Is he
Yes,
still
thanks
in or
for
is
that,
he
P.
gone?
Much obliged.
I
Excellent
think
input,
he's
as
gone.
ever.
I've lost. Oh, there it is. Yeah, he was basically saying how the ballers shouldn't feed the show and it'll just go away. And I was like, well, if that's really true, then you'd expect your numbers to be dropping, Nath. So
Can you turn
are
your
your
mic back
numbers
up now?
dropping?
Sorry.
Right, okay.
This is just going to be a technical show, really, isn't it? It's just why I mess around with mics for the whole show.
Well, that should be about right. Is that about normal?
Yeah, maybe a little bit loud, but that's fine. That's fine. Let's not mess around with it anymore.
I've lost me list. Why is that not working? It so doesn't like me.
Personally, I think all the Globers are panicking because the show's getting bigger. Flat Earth is getting bigger. They're panicking.
I think Tim's getting panicky. I don't think he likes it.
Shaking in our boots. Us Globers were shaking in our boots. Shaking in our boots.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Still can't find curves, so.
All rotation, all gravity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pictures from Earth from space.
Gravity is hard to find, man. I've been looking for it forever, but I can't. I could. Can you? Have you ever found like? I've been trying to look for like a bag of gravity somewhere. I couldn't find any. I went down to the grocery store and couldn't find. Oh, I'm in mute. Okay, I went down to the grocery store. And I was looking for a bag of gravity, right? But I couldn't find one.
Because it
Yeah,
doesn't exist.
it's quite expensive if you do find some. It's like diamonds. There's not that many of them around apparently, but apparently it's everywhere at the same time. It's very
Yeah, that-
powerful as well, but like also very weak.
Yeah, gravity is like the weak, one of the weaker forces. That's I think my compressors. Yeah,
But
I
it's
got
dead strong
there
as
we
well
go.
At the same time, 'cause it holds the oceans on as well. So it's dead weak in one sense, but it's also dead strong too. So
Oh, yeah, oceans are heavier than air, right? Like the water is heavier than air. Like what's heavier, a water-filled balloon or an air-filled balloon?
what's heavier, the atmosphere itself, or a dandelion blowing in the wind, or a sugar daddy blowing in the wind?
No, blowing has nothing to do with it. Like, like what's heavier, like air or water? Like if you had 1 cubic meter of air versus 1 cubic meter of water, which one is heavier?
Sure. But their argument is that there's a little bit of a buoyancy going on because of the water's more buoyant, more dense, so therefore that's pushing it down. So the cloud, it's nonsense.
Yeah,
Gravity makes no sense.
have you ever thrown a water balloon through the air?
Yeah,
Well, then it's possible for the water to get above the air. You just gotta give it a little push. Yeah, that's how you do that.
What are you saying?
I don't know anymore. Like,
Wow.
you guys are saying like gravity doesn't exist, but like, how come you all haven't floated the fuck up all the way?
Because we are way heavier than air.
yeah, gravity, right?
You are heavier than air, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
And air also weighs a
So-
bit too. That's why it doesn't float off into space, is because it got some mass to it. Although there is a helium shortage, right? Like helium tends to float up to the edge of the atmosphere and get picked off by the solar wind. That's kind of why we have a helium shortage.
Wow.
NASA owns it
How?
all, don't they? NASA owns most of the helium.
Well, I don't know where they get helium, but I mean, like it's running out. It's a non-replenishable resource. Like,
Who says that?
Like fossil fuels.
well, where's it? Helium is made in stars, right? And like the nearest star is the sun, and like we can't get the helium out of that anytime soon because I mean, you do it. You go to the sun and mine the helium. Like you're not going to do it. So like helium is a limited resource.
I don't buy any of that fundamental elements being formed in the heart of a dying star crap. I just think it's a load of nonsense.
Where do you think they were formed, Nathan?
Stars?
No, where do you think the elements were formed?
I've absolutely no idea. Other than the ones
Oh.
that we see actually, being made. I have no idea, literally.
Oh, okay.
But to say it's come from a star
Have you-
just seems a bit
have you,
far-fetched.
have you ever tried to find out?
No.
Well, that's your problem.
Well, you've just given the official narrative. It comes from
Yeah,
dying
well,
stars, doesn't it?
You can find, if they're wrong, you can find another, you can try to find a more convincing way that describes the origin of the elements.
Tell us.
So ask some guy what his theory is about
Oh,
how
fuck
the
some
stars
guy.
are formed.
Figured it, like, here, I'm going to give you, this is the scientific method here. The scientific method is fuck some guy. I'm going to figure out how it actually happened. That is the scientific method in a nutshell.
And how am I going to do that?
That's the thing. It requires a bit of work, creativity, etc.
Right.
I gotta get a phone call. Oh fuck! I'll be right
Try
back.
not to
I got a
swear.
phone call.
Try not to swear. So as I say, the official narrative is that these elements are formed in the heart of a dying star. Well, is that what you believe? Do you believe that to be true? Oh, he's gone. Okay, that's the end of that conversation. It's going to be one of them days.
Yeah,
I
think
guess.
he had a phone call.
Nathan, I've got to tell you about Sly. Sly's in chat at the minute. Check this. Yesterday, he was trying to goad me onto his hangout last night. Now, I didn't actually think he was going to do a hangout because I told him no, because Sly's stupid and can't see stuff that everybody else can see. I said he was turning a Nelson's eye, and obviously, therefore, started calling him Nelson Sparkane in acknowledgement of Nelson, the eye that was turned when he said he couldn't see the incoming ships or the incoming battle. So, for some reason, he doesn't understand the reference of Nelson's eye. Maybe it's an English thing that only we would understand. Perhaps he'll understand now. But for some reason, he thinks that he can't see the land at Bride, and yet he was the one that identified it on the composite and challenged me to go back to the beach and get it. And when I went back to the beach and got it, he now claims he can't see it. So I said to him, well, I'll only come on your channel if you acknowledge that we can see Bride in the photo, in the video. And people like the Rumpus admits that we can see it. And even Jeremy accepts that we can see it.
Back in.
But for some reason, Sly Sparkane can't. So I said to him, until you accept and admit that we can see it after previously claiming that you couldn't see anything at all, then there won't be any conversation with you because you're not being intellectually honest. You're telling porkies. And apparently he was live last night and he was trying to call me on the show. But to be honest, I wasn't expecting him to be on because I told him no. So unless Sly Sparkane changes his position and acknowledge that we see the land at Bride, then there won't be any conversation, Sly. So it's up to you, dude. And I'm here now. You could join if you wanted, Sly. Nothing stopping you.
Can you show us what you're talking about?
Pardon?
Can you show us?
I can.
So while he's digging that out, this is commonly referred to as the floaty land, which is the north end of the Isle of Man. And in essence, it was caught from a claimed Google-quoted height of 35 feet. Turned out to be quite considerably higher. And Anthony was challenged to go and get the exact same footage from the beach rather than from an elevated position. And that's precisely what he did. We do, however, have a denier in our midst who just claims that it's not there. So, stick it up on screen, we'll see what's there and what's not.
Yeah. So for the benefit of, and not limited to, Ruhif and Sly Sparkane, I now present to you the evidence that I was challenged to go and get. So if I move that over to there, and then I make this a little bit bigger, and do it a little bit, oops, balls. Let's get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Leave them there for now. Hopefully this will be made big enough. I just need the composite. Right. So zoom in a small amount. So this is what was affectionately known as the composite. This is taken from the highest hill, which was around about 110 feet at its absolute highest height. And essentially what this was a template for us to basically argue about stuff from maybe 6 or 8 weeks or so, because we were trying to identify what the scale was. And it was a tangent, but it was okay because it was a tangent that was interesting. And what I was challenged to do was basically go back from the beach and get this land, this observation, because the perception is that we live on a ball. And if I went back to the beach, then I should see some of this land that's here. And at some point, this bit should drop off and I shouldn't see this bit. But the bit that's over here, which was affectionately known as the floaty land, should not be seen because it's only like 200 to 300 feet, the tippy tops of it, 315 feet there or thereabouts. But we're clearly seeing not just the tippy tops of it because they're not on the horizon and there is significant land there. So the volume of land, well, pretty much all of it, but at least 200 feet of it, and we're seeing it from the highest hill, which is about 110, 115 feet in its worst case scenario. So I was challenged to go back to the beach and get it. And all you need to be aware of is this is the mountain called North Barul, and it's caught in the video. The land tails off to a point where it goes down to here, and then what we call the nose cone of the plane stops. then there's a gap, and then we go across the ocean or across the sea, and we have what was known as the floaty land. So we're looking for something that matches that what we've just seen on screen. Now, Sly, this is the actual video. Sly claims he can't see this. I don't believe him. Sly was the one that challenged me to go and get it. So this is taken from me lying on my belly on the beach. And initially, I didn't recognize this land because it was squashed. Now, squashed is what you would expect to see on a plane because of the thing called convergence. Now, the further something goes away, the more it squashes to the horizon. And I didn't recognize it initially. So I went off to the left and I looked up for North Barul, which I spot there. And then I come back down again. I spot this little half moon thing and I recognize what I'm looking at. But notice how squashed it is. And this only happens if we live on a plane. There's no explanation for this squashed element to this on a ball. But then we have the gap. So I'm looking across the gap and I'm waiting to see if the land appears on the other side. And the other side turns up in a sec. I then spot it. I stop. I zoom in. And I realize that we are looking at the same set of land. And there it is. It sits on the horizon. It's a little bit darker than the sky. Okay, it's not perfectly clear because it's being compressed. But nonetheless, I'm seeing the floaty land there that I was expecting to see. And it matches the composite. The problem is this is only 200 to 300 feet tall. And it's behind 700 feet of curvature and a wall of water that was, I can't remember what the volume, the number was, but it was about 100 feet, give or take. But we shouldn't see this land. It shouldn't be there. It should be hidden behind the curve. So I pan back across to the left-hand bit, just so I can do it again and observe that which I'm looking at and satisfy myself that it wasn't a fluke or an artifact of the camera. And obviously I move back over to the right again, and there is the land again. Now this land is squashed, right? It's difficult to pick out. Sly pretends he can't see it, but nonetheless the land is clearly there. Dog walks in front of the lens of the camera. Obviously, he's disrupting what I'm trying to do, trying to get him to move, but I'm still seeing the land. Eventually, the land stops, and then I move back out. I've got contrast turned up, and I've got brightness turned down, so I could see it. I've just removed them, and now I zoom out, and you can see how low to the ground I actually was. Now, look at the weather conditions at this point. The weather conditions to the south were misty. You can't even see the Isle of Man. To the north, the sun's, or going towards the north, the sun's set, and these kids are playing in the water because they're paddling. It wasn't a particularly hot day. It wasn't cold. It was mild. But look at what the camera's sat on. I've got this as close to the ground as I could, and it was the driest part of the beach I could get to. And the camera's sat on this little mound of sand, and you can see I've used my fingers to scoop it up and make a very short-term tripod. That's why the image was so still. Ranty. Anyway, oops. So, and then obviously you can see that by the end of the thing, I stand up and I change my elevation to about 6 feet or so. Now, there was a distraction technique created by people like Flat Earth Math and the Rumpus, and they wanted this to be in the region of 9 feet. Now, it's purely a distraction, and to be honest, I don't really care if it's at 9 feet or not. It isn't at 9 feet. It's about 2 feet. But let's just say for the sake of moving forward, they can have the 9 feet. Why is the land seen? We're seeing a lot of land that should be behind 700 feet of curvature. We shouldn't see any of it. There should be a wall of water between us and the observation point, and we see it. And there is no answer. So far, there's no answer from the ballers. Rumpus made claims that he would tell us exactly what it was and how it worked the minute I released the video, and I released it. And 3 weeks later, there's still no signs of anything from Rumpus explaining how it's possible that we can see that land if the ball that we live on is of the size that they tell us it is. It should not be seen. Now, there is one thing I want to point out at this point. Sly Sparkane made a video in response, and basically he claims that he didn't put this part of the in his video. He didn't address this part, but relative to the composite, it means that we're looking at this part here. It's either this tapering off part in the foreground, or we're seeing a little bit further and we're seeing this bit. But in any event, we're seeing one of these two peninsulas of land. Now, Sly didn't put this in his video. Sly left that out on purpose. And by doing that, he was able to basically lie about the horizon, saying that the horizon was clearly up here and it was being cut off by the curvature of the Earth. However, if Sly was to move out a little bit and allow for the land that's seen there, he would see that that bit that's demonstrated on the composite also matches that bit that's on here. However, it's flattened. It's been compressed, and that's only accounted for if we live on a plane. There's no explanation that I can see for that accounting for what we see if we live on a ball. Now, someone's at the door. I'm going to have to go and answer the door. So someone take over from me, and I shall be back in a sec.
Just for those who aren't aware, this show's going to get split into two, so there'll be a little bit of an interval at about the hour mark. So the show will end for about 5 minutes and then just restart again. So just so you're aware.
Hey, Nathan.
Yes?
Would you mind explaining the T-shirt that you have? That's the Isle of Man with the circles around it. Just the way that it.
It's a top-down view in the Blender program that Chris made. So Chris Monk-Seeley has it as his icon, his avatar, and yeah, I just pinched it and reworked it and cut out some of the negative space and turned it into a T-shirt. But basically, it's the top-down view of Sunbees to Isle of Man.
Because when you look at it from a distance, it actually seems like it looks like a person's head wearing a hat. I don't know if you had that visual. If you look at it from a distance, just initially, when I first looked at it, it just looked simply like someone's forward profile. So you get up close, then you can see the distinctions and the contours, and then figure out that that's not what it is. But anyway,
I love that design. So I really like that. Well, I would say that my wife got me one of the T-shirts. I was going to say I bought one, but I didn't. But yeah, I really like that design.
Yeah. It's got a particular eye-catching appeal that I like.
But of course, I would like it. I made it, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Chris Monk-Seeley that really deserves the credit for that, because it's his. He spotted how cool it looked in Blender, and he's just like, wow, that looks cool. I'll have a grab of that. And I did the same while he was showing me something in the model, and I was like, oh, I like that. I'll have that as well. So I just took a couple of screen grabs. And like I say, he ended up using it as his icon.
Good.
Yeah, I've got that, and the there's a guy that's sort of running in midair. So Ranty took a picture when we were debunking the dip angle, them saying that you can measure to the horizon and claiming basically that the horizon's something that's useful for measuring, and it isn't. Anyway, there's a picture that Ranty caught of a guy on the beach, and he's basically flying, you know, the horizon's below him, and he's clearly standing on something, but he's not standing on anything that in the picture could be classed as horizon. So yeah, it's got the flying man. So on the secondary channel, which is just called Nathan Oakley, all of the thumbnails for the mirrors, which I put up 12 hours after these get rendered, have got that on the icon, the flying man and the Isle of Man Blender logo.
Did we ever find out what Ranty was our ability to see in the footage that he was showing yesterday? My guess was that it was a wooden pylon that was offshore. You know what I mean? Remember he gave that challenge to try to guess what it was, and then he would give the winner a T-shirt. I don't remember hearing what it was.
I still don't know what he is. He hasn't told me, so I don't actually know.
Okay.
But when he's next on, I will be asking and see if anybody did guess right. Yeah, so just so that, again, so the audience know what we're talking about, if you watch yesterday's show, which would be number 228, I think it was 228 that he was talking about this in, but he demonstrates, again, like the flying man, like a black hole above the horizon, is the way he described it. I think he named it Rumpus's arsehole, yeah. But we won't use that as the term. It's just like a black hole floating above the horizon. He said if you can identify what this black hole is, he'll buy you a T-shirt if you get it right. So stick your answers in the comments of number 228. Guess what it is. It's probably about the 10-minute mark in the video. Yeah, interesting stuff that Ranty's been catching lately. I can't fault him really. He's been doing a really good job. He's dead keen.
Yeah, I agree.
It spans off the back of him and Anthony being quite competitive. So Anthony will go out and get a really good shot of something,
right,
and Ranty will want to top it. You know, want to do something better, which I think is cute. You know, it's cute. Wouldn't normally allow quite so much dead air, but there's a lawnmower going past me. This is it. Public link. Anyone can come in and challenge anything about anything. And we've got dead air. 5 people on the panel. Amazing.
I can, I guess, talk about an interview that I did yesterday, but I botched the recording of it, and so it's lost to all posterity. But out here in Maryland, there's a Christian radio program called the Frederick Faith Debate, and I was on it at one point talking about the Bible's view of the end times and whatnot. So I contacted the host again to see if he would be interested in having a discussion of flat Earth. So we had our discussion yesterday, and like I said, I botched the recording, so it's gone. But it's so interesting because these guys had never heard of flat Earth, and so they're asking questions that are just straight out of the gate. You know, just the knee-jerk. What about this? What about this? And one of the questions that they asked is, okay, so you know, if a pitcher throws the ball and the batter just cracks a nice home run, why does it come to the ground if there's no gravity? You know, and it's just questions like that. You just sit there and think, I don't understand your question, because you're actually asking that question. It's like that you don't get it. It's just such a simple answer, and yet they're asking a question that is so profoundly naive. I don't know. It's
I do kind of get it, because
conversation.
There's been a few times when people have, you know, they start describing flat Earth as though the Earth has physically changed, and of course it hasn't. You know, it's a paradigm shift. It's a mental change, and the Earth itself as a sphere is a mental construct. So the Earth itself doesn't change. You know, as soon as you realise the obvious and observable nature of your reality, it doesn't suddenly mean that gravity, as they think it exists, stops being a thing. You know, things will still fall to the ground regardless of how you perceive the world to be. You know, that will continue to happen. Nothing will change in that regard. You know, the sun won't change in terms of how it does its thing, but how you perceive it will change drastically. Same goes for the moon. The amount of people that say, the moon's been doing this, and you're like, have you only just started looking at the moon? Yeah. Well, that's because you've started to open your eyes to the world. So that's good. You know, it's good to take in what's going on.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
And then one of the other questions that I am amused by is, again, the question, well, if there's no such thing as gravity per se, then why aren't we floating in the air? Or what holds us to the ground? That's what it is. What holds us to the ground? But then my question is why are you asking that question? You know, what makes you ask the question that why would you think we shouldn't be with our feet on the ground? Because again, I think what you point out very well in terms of presuppositions is they're presupposing the reality of a spinning Earth, and they know physics. I mean, it's just so simple. They know centrifugal force is real, that you get pushed away from the center. And if we're truly spinning and there is no gravity, they know what should be really happening, but it's not happening. And there's that glitch in their construct, and they can't make sense of it. But underlying the question, because I don't ask the question, what's keeping me on the ground? Because I'm not presupposing that we're spinning.
Right. It seems asinine to ask that question if you just think, well, the Earth is motionless, we're not travelling anywhere, so, you know, I'm heavy, therefore I stick to the ground. There's nothing more to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's doing away with the whole paradigm. It's doing away with all of it, which is difficult for a lot of people, you know, because you have these preconceived notions of, like you say, if you don't have a spinning ball Earth, then gravity doesn't exist and we'd all fly off. And to them, in their mind, just by asking you that question, that to them is a proof. You know, we don't fly off a spinning ball. Like you say, that's immediately presupposing you're on a spinning ball.
I think it's like gravity has become such a base reaction. It's like if you challenge that in any way, it's like you're committing heresy or something. No sense.
I was never a watcher of the sitcom Friends back in the '90s, but in my feed yesterday, there was a clip that they showed where Ross was talking to Phoebe about gravity. I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but you know, Phoebe was
actually
denying.
did see that episode.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, they throw it out there every once in a while. We see it, different TV shows, cartoons, things like that. But you know, it always gets made fun of at some point. It's kind of silly. So I'm wondering if any Globers found any curve yet.
I'm actually talking with a teenage son of one of my friends from high school, and arguing just repeatedly. I have seen the curve. I have seen the curve. He lives just inland in California, so he's got the Catalina Islands. So I challenged him this morning because the Catalina Islands are 22 miles off the coast. And so I challenged him. I put up a link for someone who has done curvature testing over the water up in Washington. And I said, look, you know, just go out, just do this experiment. Just look for yourself, because he's just so adamant. He's been on the beach and he's seen the curve of the horizon as he's looked out on the beach and watched the sunset.
Oh, he seems curious to try to understand what he's talking about, even though he doesn't.
Yeah, he's lightened up a little bit. He was pretty aggressive, but last night's conversation, he was taking a few turns that were showing, I think, some inquisitive. When I brought up, I didn't really bring up anything particular, but yet last night's conversation, I brought up simply water level and the scale from anything from a cup of water moving all the way up to the ocean. And he's like, well, yeah, everything up until the ocean is level, but when you get to the ocean, it can't be because it's curved.
Right.
It was like, okay.
Right. That's where logic stops. At the ocean. These guys have a lot of trouble letting go. Letting go of that.
Where'd
flow.
Anthony go? What's
I think he's on a phone call.
I don't know.
I can't hear hardly anything that's being said because there's a lawnmower right outside my window. Hopefully the second show will be better.
I think the one thing for me is I think about these distance observations that we're talking about is that even though we are making, or you guys, not, even though you guys are making some great observations with the surface observations on islands like the Isle of Man, I think one of the things that I haven't seen that I'd like to see more focus on is that if we're looking at an object on the Isle of Man per se, it appears at a 90-degree angle because that's what it is. We don't see it at an obtuse angle. And I think that for me, that's a more specific tell in terms of what we're looking at. So I just passed over the Potomac River in Virginia, and to my right was the Washington Monument, and it's about six or so miles away, which isn't very far. So you're not going to be having a lot of issues in terms of refraction and whatnot. But in reality, if the Earth is curved at 6 miles, the Washington Monument is not at 90 degrees. It can't be. But when you look at it, it is.
It is.
It's at 90 degrees. And any church building in the distance with a steeple, it's not. There's no angle. There is no obtuse.
I've asked that question before. That very question. We're on a sphere. How is it that the buildings that are further away from me are not leaning away from me? And then it's like, it's all built flat. But it's all built flat on a sphere? Like, I don't understand. It's like you guys are missing the whole correlation between the leaning and the fact that it's supposed to be a sphere.
Yeah.
Because
I think that that's something that you can, again, with the Chicago skyline or whatever else we've talked about with superior mirages, the presentation of the phenomena is that it's 90 degrees when you're looking at the skyline. It's a 90. So it's representing exactly what we're seeing, but we're not seeing what it's representing because it's a mirage.
Shout out to Joey for the super chat. Thank you very much. Much obliged.
But if, for instance, if I was standing on the bridge on the Potomac looking at the Capitol, there is little to no water that's going to bring the refraction distortion as you're looking across the landscape. So that's actually going to make more sense to talk about the fact that there is no angular curvature, because the buildings are all appearing. So then you can't use the mirage as an excuse. You might be able to somehow weasel into it with a mirage on the Chicago skyline. But when you're looking out over straight landscape of just trees and cityscapes, you don't have the same atmospheric distortion that you're going to say, well, it's refraction, and so it's just presenting the building as if it's 90 degrees. That's not going to be there in that scenario.
I'm wondering where refraction became this magical thing that just brings buildings back from hundreds of feet.
Hey, Mark.
Hiya, folks. Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up, man?
So I was, before the debate show came on, I was watching the next thing in my feed, and there was a guy who was taking Eric Dubay to task on a couple of his 200 proofs, and he picked the Aries failure and Michelson-Morley, and basically just verbally denounced it. He didn't really go through anything specific except to say that Eric Dubay was wrong. But this is the one thing that he said in terms of why using Aries failure and the Michelson-Morley. He said that the experiments were not experiments to test the motion of the Earth, but to test the drag of the ether. And that was his proof. He said, Eric Dubay's an idiot, and all you flat earthers are idiots, because these guys weren't trying to prove the movement of the Earth. They were trying to prove the drag of the ether. Now, I had a response and I posted it on his page, but I'm curious as to what your thought is on that defense. How would you respond when a person would say that Airy was simply trying to prove the drag of the ether?
Well, he's trying to prove whether the stars moved or we moved.
Yeah, but so the stars then, I guess the stars wouldn't be a part of the ether because the ether is our atmosphere. The stars are off in space, right? So that wouldn't. I guess let me tell you what my response was. My response was, what's dragging the ether? If it's to measure the ether's drag, that's presupposing there's something moving and dragging the ether. Therefore, it was about the motion of the Earth.
It's a failure
Otherwise,
to demonstrate that Earth rotates. That's why it was deemed a failure.
Say that again?
It was deemed a failure because it did not demonstrate that Earth rotated.
Right, but this guy was saying that's the wrong way to look at it because he wasn't trying to prove the Earth is rotating. He was trying to prove the drag of the ether. That was his answer.
It's just talking
but
nonsense.
My point is...
Just talking rubbish.
Say it again, go ahead.
He's just a glober talking rubbish.
Right. I liked your video of Eleanor. It's very cute.
Thank you. Thanks for holding it together while the lawnmower's been going on, guys. Lots of dead air. I'm going to round out the show in a minute while I'm on mute and they can't hear me.
I have 3 older children and a son-in-law, and in the
getting sniped just as I'm about to round out this part of the show, so there will be a short break, maybe about 5-10 minutes tops, and then the show will resume. So in the meantime, I will round out. So with that, I'll say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate, and also a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!